All right, we are live, kicking it back with my guy, my brother from another mother, Caesar. What's going on, man? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Rob. It's good to see you, my man. Hope all's going well in your world as well.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. How about these markets, man? So much confusion. Half the people saying we're going up, half the people saying we're going down. Where are you at with things on your channel?
If you've watched at all over the past month, anybody who's watched the channel, I'm outside both those camps. I'm not in the massive pump or the massive dump. I think we're just going to be moving sideways. I think we're range bound, and we will likely stay range bound. I think until May or June.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a theory myself here, and I've been talking about it on the Patreon a lot. Mainly that I think that we could see a little bit of a relief rally continuing here until the end of May, beginning of the end of April, beginning of May, followed by that stagnant sideways. Everybody goes on vacation, goes to camp for the summer, and the markets just kind of do absolutely nothing for the summer. Where do you sit on that?
I I mean, I could see if it is a small relief rally, in my opinion, I think like we could both have it our way where yeah, it could go up a little bit, but like we're not really breaking out of this channel, this range that we're in. I don't when you say a small relief rally, I don't know how high you mean. I'm thinking personally, and I've made this call since February. I could be wrong. I don't think we'll see prices above 80K for the entirety of 2026. And if we get above 80K, maybe there's a margin of error there to like 85,000. That's acceptable. I was actually just talking to a friend of mine who's been in crypto as long as me, and he is wildly successful. He's one of the most successful crypto investors that I personally know. He does not have a YouTube presence or anything like that. He's a very private person. But we were talking, he was asking me what price would make me change my mind that the bear market low is in. And I told him probably around 90K. I 80 to 85K is the maximum I could see this quote unquote relief rally taking us to. We get above 85K, I might get nervous on my stance in the bear market, but 90K daily closes above there is really what would make me change the tune there. So I don't know what you mean by a relief rally, but for me, if we were to continue moving higher, I think probably not even below 80K is my suspicion. I really think we're range bound and we're going to be moving sideways until May at the earliest. I think it'll be June that we break out of this range.
Yeah, I think that for my relief rally, I mean, for us right now on the daily, I mean, we've been putting in higher lows and higher highs for a little bit now, since like the 25th of February ish. I think, and when we were coming down, like the day before yesterday, when we were coming down, I said we're probably just putting in another higher low. Really, I mean, we would have had to come all the way back down below 65.9 to invalidate it, right? But I think in terms of the rally I'm talking about, I see us coming up to about 77, maybe rejecting off of there to put in another higher high. And then, like I said, spending our time through April and through March and April doing that. And then probably, like I've been saying, rejecting off 80,000 for the peak. And then we're going to collapse out of this upward channel that we've been in since February 25th. And then I said, in a less probable scenario, we could come up to 85, but I said that I think that that's really the least probable scenario in my opinion, and it doesn't invalidate us coming back down afterwards. So
Right. I think we think the same way. Maybe we have different time frames, but that's it. And timing's the hardest part to get. We could both be wrong on the time and both be right on the price. That's not uncommon. We could both be wrong about everything. You never know. That's happened before. I'm with you. I think that we will break out of this range when it comes time to the downside. And I've had different stances. I've made various claims since I've accepted that we were in a bear market back in February. I once entertained the idea that we'd go below 40K for the bear market end. I don't think we will. I think we're going to have a hard time even getting below 50K, but I don't believe 60K was the low. I do
mhm.
believe that we likely will. I'm thinking somewhere between 50 and 60K, but probably closer to 50K. Maybe just below 50K. That's my thoughts. And I think, like Archie, I've heard his stance on this. I think that it will be before Q4. I'm thinking we bottom actually at the very ass end of Q3. I think, or maybe even in the heart of Q3
Like
in August is what I'm thinking.
okay. Yeah, so my trading view chart, I mean, it's all over the place, but yeah, this is my bottom target right here between 50 and 55, just a little bit below the 200-week moving average is where I've been kind of targeting for a couple of months now. Because we see that in every cycle, right? I mean, in the last one, we did come down to the 200-week, but we actually came slightly below it, right? So I think 50 to 55. Um, and then just range bound for probably like 6 to 8 months when we get down there. I think that's what's kind of going to happen. And then through 2027, maybe partial the way through, we'll start to work our way towards the Bitcoin halving at the beginning of 2020, 28 as we do. And, you know, it's kind of what I'm looking at. I don't know. Maybe
What
my chart looks like a circus to you. I don't know.
No, I am with it. I literally am with it. I think a lot of people have this same assumption, and we're on the shallower end of this drop. Some people think it's going to be more extreme than this. Um, some people think that we bottomed, and it is possible. What I will say is, if we've bottomed already, this was never a bear market. This was a correction in our first ever Bitcoin super cycle. Like if we found our bottom already, this is not acting like a bear market at that point. It's acting like a correction truly. And the whole idea, CZ might have been right. We might have had a super cycle after all. And it might not be that super in the beginning, but if it is a super cycle, cycles always end with a bang, right? In bullish cycles, at least they end with the bang. So it might be starting off slow. This is the correction. And then the next quote unquote super cycle could be a lot more robust than what we've seen so far. I don't think that's true. I don't think we found the low, but if this was the low, I think there's we'll see it in the future. There's going to be a lot of people who will argue that this was actually never a bear market to begin with. And that could make sense because that would throw a lot of people off. I mean, it definitely threw me off. If this is not a bear market right now, that would be wild because we're showing all the signs that we are, like we totally would be in a bear market.
Oh yeah, all the altcoins are down about what they should be for a bear market between 95 and 99% for the most part. And, it's funny because I remember in late 2024, I was saying it all the time. People would often ask me, well, like, what about XRP or what about HBAR or whatever coin, right? Do you think that this specific coin is a BEC? Do you think it's going to have a bear market or is it going to keep pumping while everything else goes into a? And I'm like, no, man, like it's the cycle is about liquidity, not about utility and stuff like that. So if there's no money, there's no money. It's the same reason XRP only went up 100% when it was declared not a security back in like 2023, I want to say, whatever the case might be. But because we were in the depths of a bear market, there was no liquidity to pump it to $10 like people were calling for. And so, I mean, for me, I said it like 1,000 times. Yes, all altcoins will go down 90 to 95%. And a lot of people, they're just like, well, it just doesn't seem realistic, Rob, based on where we are. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I've been here a while, right? All altcoins, and sure enough, pretty much all of them. And now I'm flipping that and I'm telling people, look, like the returns, we went through a whole list of altcoins over the last couple of months, and we charted them from the bottoms of the last bear market of 2022 to the highs, right? Because so many people were saying, well, we didn't have, like, altcoins didn't perform. Yes, they did. They just didn't have that parabolic final step. But like altcoins like Swiftcoin, for example, gave back like 7,500% returns from the bottom of the bear market to the top, to its cycle top. That's not a non-existent altcoin season.
Yeah. That's something I've learned too in my time, is that typically when people say that there was no alt season, and don't get me wrong, like compared to the 2017 cycle, we haven't seen alt seasons at all come close to that at all. But there were people in 2021 who said we didn't have an alt season. But the reality is, whenever you hear that, it's like there is some type of cyclicality. There is money flowing into these low cap coins, just not the coins you're looking at, not the coins you expected. It's in other avenues. Like if you weren't paying attention to decentralized finance, and NFTs in 2021, 2020, DeFi summer, it might have seemed like there wasn't an alt season. If you weren't involved in the meme coin markets in 2023, it might have seemed like there wasn't an alt season, but there were 100x's happening left and right, 1000x's like on all these crazy meme coins. And there's always a market where crazy things happen. And it used to just be altcoins in general because there were so few of them. Now that there's so many, you're going to see these alt seasons really flourish in various like sectors of crypto. And just because a sector didn't pump last cycle doesn't mean it won't pump next cycle. But oftentimes, you know, it's like you're right and you're wrong, whoever you are, saying that there was no alt season. You're right because, okay, altcoins as a whole didn't really do well. They didn't get that parabolic blow off top. But you're wrong in the sense that there wasn't any exuberant growth. There was. It just, were you looking at the right projects? Were you involved in the right projects? And they're easy to miss. It's easy, like it's very easy to be late to the party. That's for sure. It's harder to be in the trenches and figuring out what the next step is before it comes.
Well, and I also think that a lot of people who are here right now in crypto came in between sometime after the Bitcoin halving. So then obviously the returns that you were going to get in any given altcoin were going to be tempered based on your timing, like when you came into the market as well, right? So I think that played also a big factor. Like I get a lot of people that talk to me, they say they came in sometime between June of 2025 and December of 2025, right? Like right near the top, within 6 months of the top. And it's like, well, of course you feel that there was no returns on altcoins because, you know, all of us were expecting way higher prices, myself included. Everybody was, but that just simply wasn't the case. Bitcoin ended up topping exactly where it was supposed to top if you were going by the 4-year cycle, if that in fact was the top. And we're not talking about a, you know, super cycle or anything, because I've used different metrics. Like I'll look at the average amount of days between the Bitcoin halving event and the peak of each cycle. And I was saying, I even played a video that I said back in early 2024 that Bitcoin would top at the end of between the end of September and the beginning of November of 2025. And I should have stuck to that because I fucking nailed it right on. and I didn't, right? All of the this time is different stuff, and you know, it all affects you in the end, and you know, not this time.
Anybody who's watched my channel from the very early days, literally before the bull market started in 2023, like I'm talking early. I don't know if I cut out. Am I still here? I'm still here.
Yeah, you're still here.
Early 2023 and late 2022, and basically all of 2023, I remember saying specifically the bull market top will be in October of 2025. I remember. Am I still here? Am I disconnecting?
Yep. I'm sorry. You're here. You lag here and there, but your picture, your voice doesn't.
Yeah, lag. I might be disconnected. I don't know. It's showing that I'm here. We're frozen, or maybe I'm frozen. I could be totally disconnected right now.
Can you?
If anybody hears me, I'm going to tell you some crazy shit. Okay.
Aliens aren't
real. They never.
His internet's a little bit choppy, guys. I'm sure he'll be back. I'm going to dive into the chat a little bit while we're waiting for him to reconnect. Dave, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man. Splake's in the house. Zebek, XCN, XPR, XDB. Carl, both you, Caesar, and Future are my favorites. Both of you are super fantastic. Thank you so much, Carl. Appreciate you, man. Haven't been live in a while, guys. Just usually do the live streams on Thursdays with Rue and Max and then Blockchain Buzz. So, Brandon, what's up, buddy? Brandon says, Caesar, what's up? Says Don Lee. Our boy Caesar, yes. He's been having internet stuff, so he'll be back, guys. Don't worry. Notice me. Knowing what I know, I'm glad I got out of XRP at $2.85. Nice. There's a win right there, brother. Exactly. That's the thing, man. That's the thing is that, you know, I know that, and that must have been a hard decision for you because a lot of people were calling for like a $10 XRP and maybe even higher. So Bold move, man. Bold move for sure that you got out of that. Rockhound, what's up, Ken? Good to see you, man. Hey, Rob and Chris, happy Saturday. What's going down? Brock, would clarity suddenly passing alter your guys' views on the bottom? No, no. For me personally, here's the thing. I know that there's people out there that think that the Clarity Act passing is suddenly going to make crypto go parabolic and everyone's just going to be happy and sunshine and rainbows. But what people don't, maybe it's they don't understand it because they think that they don't want to acknowledge it. Like it's not what you want to hear. But the Clarity Act passing, for example, a new chair of the SEC, for example. So let's go there. Okay, so if the Clarity Act, if it even passes, first off, I want to say this. Welcome back, Cesar.
Thank you.
First off, I want to say this.
Using a different camera.
If the Clarity Act does not pass soon, there's a very real risk of it not passing for a couple of years because, listen, it's not a Democrat or Republican thing. I would be saying the same thing if it was the Republicans doing it. But the Democrats spent the last 5 years attacking crypto. If they gain power, do you really think suddenly they're going to flip and start doing favors like passing Clarity Acts and stuff? No, we're going to go right back into the dark ages of everything's getting delayed, nothing's getting passed, arguments all over the place. They're not going to do any favors to crypto, right? So if it doesn't pass soon, we got everything's going to shut down because these politicians are going to start running for elections for midterms, which means that's going to be their focus. They're not going to be talking about Clarity Acts and all this other stuff soon, right? So we have a very small window here for that to take place. First of all. Secondly, we get a new Fed chair in May, right? That doesn't mean that the Fed chair is going to come in and start changing things on day one or day two. They got to come in, they got to get acclimated, they got to get on the same page with everybody else at the Fed, all the other commissioners, and they got to devise a plan. It could be 2 or 3 months before they start making any decisions on rate cuts or money printing or anything like that. It doesn't just happen like that. And then if they, let's say best case scenario, 2 months goes by, they start cutting rates and printing money, then it takes another probably at least quarter, so another 3 months for the economy to start feeling the effects of rate cuts and money printing and stuff like that. So no matter how you slice it, all of that stuff, while they're bullish catalysts, will be a delayed effect on markets. It's not going to be this bang, all of a sudden we're going to the moon tomorrow, right? What do you think on my rant?
If you guys can hear me clearly, hopefully, I think that the Clarity Act getting passed it's going to be a big deal for the future of the crypto ecosystem, absolutely. But talking about politics, there's something here. I was watching a episode from Raoul Pal. You guys know Raoul Pal? Raoul Pal? Anybody know Raoul Pal in the crypto space? He's a very big name in the crypto space. He's got a tremendous background in finance. He used to work for Goldman Sachs for like a decade or 2 decades. I don't know. He's got a traditional background in finance, and he's a very educated individual. I don't think he's right about everything. And nothing that not everything that he said should be taken as fact, but he made a really good argument how the biggest donors, the largest donors that Donald Trump had when he ran were crypto affiliated people. Donald Trump ran as the crypto president because that's who was backing him. So if you're the opposition, if you are, I don't know if I'm still here. It looks like I cut out. We're going to see. Okay, cool. I'm still here. If you're the opposition, if you're on the Democratic Party or whatever party's anti-Trump, it makes sense that you might be anti-crypto, even if maybe you want to be pro-crypto. But if it's all this political BS, you want your party to be the one that passes this stuff. You don't want the opposition to pass it. You want the people to reflect kindly. So these people don't care about us. They don't care about crypto. They care about how they look. And if that means they have to wait 2 years for Trump to get out before they start being crypto friendly, maybe they will. Maybe they won't be. Maybe the Democratic side, the left side won't be friendly to crypto at all. And they're avoiding, they want to not pass this because of other reasons. That could be true as well. They definitely have not been crypto friendly in the past. This administration has been the most crypto friendly administration we've seen, but things aren't going how any of us expected. And again, I don't know if I keep cutting out or not, but
Nope, you're
that's just
here.
a thought. I don't know. That was cool. That's something that Raul Powell was talking about. Not those exact words, but just that idea of Trump is likely going to need to make things happen soon before the midterms, because this is what he ran on. Was not just crypto. There's a bunch of other things, but his largest donors are affiliated with crypto. He had the crypto summit at the White House, all this stuff. So it makes sense that he'd want the Clarity Act to pass, things get rolling. Again, like you said, it's not going to be an immediate shift up once the Clarity Act passes. It might take time, but if it passes now, we've got some months for that sell the news event, that hype to drive off, and then the fundamentals come in, regulations pass, and things really get cooking going into the midterms. In that episode, he was also talking about how, and this is a guy again who's very plugged in. He's very plugged in to the inner workings of the financial ecosystems of the world, not just where he lives. He said that he's on good authority that within the next 2 weeks the Clarity Act is going to get passed, and this was something he said about 3 days ago. So within the next like 10 to 11 days, in theory, we should get the Clarity Act passed. And here's the thing, people, if you're listening to this, if I'm clear, if you can hear me, is that when the Clarity Act passes, we're going to get a rally beforehand. Everybody's going to be excited. This is going to validate that the bear market's over, that the bull market's starting. Here we go. And then we dump. And then we'll sell off. Well, we linger even a little bit, but likely once you hear the news that the Clarity Act's going to pass, that the Clarity Act has passed, that is a topping point. I wouldn't be surprised if when we're around 80K, when we're in 80K's proximity, I wouldn't be surprised if that came hand in hand with the Clarity Act getting passed. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Well, yeah, and just to kind of touch on that, that will be a topping point. I agree with you. That kind of stuff normally is, but everything you see and everything you read will be telling you it's going higher, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
everyone on X
Good to
will be saying,
reinforce that. Yeah.
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 My only
The bull market's going on. The bear market's dead.
yeah,
Like all these things.
my only concern with the Clarity Act right now is that, I mean, as we've learned in crypto, nothing is certain, and there's a lot of people who are talking about the Clarity Act right now as though it's already passed in law. And I feel like a lot of people are putting the cart before the horse when it comes to the Clarity Act right now, and that's a little bit of a red flag for me, because with so much expectation of it passing, I mean, within, like you said, within like 2 weeks or whatever, if it doesn't, what's that going to do to markets, right? If they're like, you know what, it's not going to pass, and then all of a sudden the narrative shifts to maybe sometime in 2027, oh, markets are not going to respond well to that, right?
And that is a valid point. I think there's a lot of logic in there. But on the other end of that as well, all this hype that's already promoted, we tend to make things bigger than life, bigger than real. So whenever it does pass, all the hype's already here. What more do you want? We're already pre-programmed and have our bag set for this. Like you said, a lot of people are expecting this to happen. So when it happens, we're going to be like, oh, now it's time to pump. But all the people who are buying for that, they're already in. Nobody's going to buy, and the smart money's going to sell. So like similar thinking, just on the opposite end of that as well. Yeah, I think if it doesn't pass, if it gets pushed back, that would be discouraging, and people would sell because of that. But either way, it's probably going to promote selling pressure in the short term.
And it's important, guys, to make sure that like, for example, I've talked about this before. Like, I'll whenever I look at the Bitcoin chart, for example, on every video I do for the day, this is an example. I'll show you guys the case for and the argument for us going down, and then I'll show you guys the argument for us going up, and I'll let you know what the probability is, and I'll let you know which way I think it's going to go. But at the end of the day, you have to decide for yourself. And there's people who say, well, you say it could go up, could go down. Well, yes, because it could, right? Because there are no certainties in charting. It's probabilities, not certainties. So when we tell you these things, we give you all of the information, and you have to decide which way you think it's going to go. I'll give you a valid argument for both directions. And it's the same thing with this Clarity Act situation. Cesar and I have just given you two valid arguments for a negative and a positive. It's up to you to hedge against which one you think is going to happen, right? So It's very important to remember
And
that.
addressing both sides. There's a lot of people in the crypto space that they address both sides so that once the price does one of them, they can play a clip from the video where they address both sides and be like, see, I told you this would happen. But what Rob's talking about and how I do things too, we're not doing it that way. We'll give you both sides. We'll tell you which side we're thinking, or if it's neutral, we'll be like, hey, we don't know. It could do this, it could do this. The reason why we're saying that is so that when the path unfurls, you kind of can have a better idea as far as where the directional heading is going. And think about if you're only considering one side, up or down, you're only considering that. If you're only considering that and you're not considering the other side as even a possibility, you're just so blinded by your own ego. When the opposite happens, you will be emotional. Like, man, you do not want to be controlled by your emotions in this game. Emotional investors are not going to last. So addressing both sides, accepting that it's possible, seeing what that might look like, and having that's not so that we can be right either way. It's so that it allows some temperance in our emotional well-being if the unexpected happens. That's basically it. And what parameters acknowledge either side taking effect, basically.
Well, yeah, and I think that part of the problem is there's so many new people to crypto, and you've got a lot of charters out there, people who chart, analysts, who will lead their followers to believe that charting is about certainties, right? They're like, no, this is the way it's going to go, and that's just 100% how it's got to be, and that's just not the case, right? Rise above.
Confidence is different than like crystal ball shit. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Talk away, man. I'm just going through some of the comments. Benjamin says, Cesar, thanks for that call on ZRO to $2.70. I crushed it, or not $1.90.
Let's
nice.
see. I'm gonna look at ZRO right now. Shout out to who was it that Rush whatever. I feel like I cut you off beforehand.
Benjamin.
Let's see.
Ben.
Yeah, well, shout out to Benjamin as well. ZRO is at $2 right now and 15 cents. I mean, I don't know whenever I made my video on it. Let me see. I'm actually kind of curious since we're doing this. Let's do this, Benjamin. Let's see. I can't tell if you're being a smart ass or not, so we're going to do it real quick. Let's just see. Hold on. ZRO. I'm looking. If I'm wrong, cool. Yeah. September. Okay, so it was September in 2025. So it was a long time ago. September, whenever I talked about it in September, it was basically at the same price it is now. So yeah, it didn't pump. That sucks. I was wrong. But hey, if you bought whenever I made the video, you can literally sell right now and you're not at a loss. So I guess that's what I'm complaining about. I don't know.
He loves ZRO. It's his baby. He's in our trading group over on the Patreon. So yeah.
Oh, okay. So he's not being a smart ass. I'm just taking it the wrong way.
No.
I'm being an ass.
Yeah, no, he's not a dick. He's a good.
I like ZRO too. I think, and I mean, honestly, looking at it right now, the fact that it actually looks way better than the average coin. Like it's held up it's crazy. You're up above. You're literally where you were at the highs in January. You're above your prices from October and November. Most cryptos are lower than that right now. So that's actually, it looks like it's in a grand accumulative phase. I need to look at ZRO more, man. I might make a video on ZRO because of this.
It's gaining a lot of traction. It's growing a community too. So Myrdid says, Cesar, talk about how you've been trading the past couple of weeks. What have you been up to?
So I've been trading more than just the past couple of weeks, but specifically the past couple of weeks, I've been trying a different strategy. Normally my strategy is I use a little bit larger leverage, not like crazy leverage. I don't do 100x or anything like that. I've used 40x a few times, 20x leverage, but like I've been using less leverage, like 5x or less. And I've really been, my normal strategy with trading is look for major turning points and then layer in those positions and try to catch a big swing off of that. You know what I mean? Try to, like, I have target A, target B. That's the thought, right? You want to buy at target A, you want to sell at target B, or sell at target B and buy at target A, however it works. But lately, the past 2 weeks, I've tried a new method, and I've tried it before whenever I was less practiced, like maybe like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And I didn't have the patience for it. But I tried a method. I'm starting with a small amount of cash. And I just want to see where it goes, where I'm taking profits before it reaches any targets that I have predestined. So if I go long, if I go short, my goal for the day is to make at least 2% profits. And my goal is also that if I step away and I come back and I see that my profits are 15% or more, I just take profits right there. I don't care if I see it going higher, if I believe it's going to go higher, if I'm short and I believe it's going to go lower, I'm just taking profits. No questions asked. It's a rule. It doesn't matter. And if it does go lower, if it goes higher and I could have made more money, cool. That's great. I'll wait and I'll get into another position. Maybe I'll go long again. Maybe I'll go short again, depending on what it is. If we're in the middle of a range, especially because we're range bound right now, playing off of those highs and lows of the range has been very beneficial. It's worked out very well. And I don't know how many trades I've made over the past 2 weeks, but I've only had one trade that went against me, one trade that I lost, and that was yesterday. And it was a 4% loss. And typically, whenever I take losses in trades, they're bigger, 4%. You know, and it mitigates because you hopefully make more gains. But it feels different. And this is a new strategy I'm trying. So again, I don't want to talk about too much without having more data to back test like this strategy. But just the idea of taking profits on principle, like being disciplined, taking profits. It doesn't matter if you think it's going to go higher or lower. The goal is to make 2% a day. If I hit that, if I'm at 4%, 6%, I'll take profits. And then that has instilled in me a less risky behavior when it comes to taking losses too. I've always used stop losses. Not always do I have them, but just lower leverage, smaller positions, and then just trying to take consistent profits. That's basically the strategy, I guess. I don't know how to better explain it. I made a post kind of talking about it. I don't like to talk about trading too much because, again, I think most people are very bad at trading. I think most people should not trade. You shouldn't even attempt it. But in my post, I did say that if you have like $100, you want to start with $100, fine, start with that. If you suck, you're going to blow it all. And if you do good, you can turn 100 into 1,000 or 10,000 or something like that. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if I'm there.
Yeah, you're good. Brandon says, right now I feel like Zebek and Tao are opportunities.
Rob, can you hear me at all?
Yep. I can hear you. Can you?
I'm watching the line.
Oh, it's frozen again. We'll keep going until he gets here. Yes, here's the thing, Brandon. There was a good lesson with Tao because it was at about $175 and about 3 or 4 weeks ago now. And I was telling my community that I was thinking about getting it, but I waited. I waited because I was like, I think it's going to go a little bit lower. And you know what? Tried to time the bottom, didn't work out, man. Right? And now it's $274.90. So now I have to hope that Bitcoin does have that pullback to 50 to 55. That way, Tao does pull back down, and I can scoop some of it up. Right? What's up, buddy?
Bro, I don't know what's happened. I don't know where I cut off or how much of it you guys heard, but
we heard the whole thing until you sat back
short,
and said, yeah, we heard the whole thing until you sat back and said you couldn't hear anything.
Okay, cool. That's good. All right, yeah. That's the idea there. It's just the discipline of taking profits, which, like, how many times for any of you who have traded, which I'm sure a lot of you have, and a lot of you have probably not had success trading, right? How many times when you're trading 30%, 40%, and then it goes against you and then you lose money? How many times have you taken a loss on a trade, but you were green first? So that's the thought, is like, just take profits while you're green. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Things will go against you at some point. Just take profits. Take it at 5%. Keep taking 5% profits. Keep taking 2% profits. If you do 2% profits every single day, which is a lot harder to do than it sounds. But if you do that every day, 344 days later, you will have $1 million starting with $100. You start with $100. It's that simple. It's not that simple, but $100 starting point in less than a year. Just the reason I'm saying that is not to be like, look, you could do this in less than a year. 100. It's more just to put it in perspective of how powerful that compounding 2% gains is. And you might not do it every day. Maybe you do it every other day. Boo-hoo. You take $100 and turn it into $1 million in 2 years. Okay, whatever. Or 3 years. Whatever. That's still crazy. So taking small, and that comes from a traditional background too. I got this idea from one of my buddies who is in traditional finance background. Like, they get excited over 2% gains a day. And then they quit. That's it. They go home for the day. That's it. And they just try to do that consistently.
I tell my trading group all the time over on the Patreon that, a lot of them will trade with like just $500. They'll use $500 to trade. And I always say, listen, if you're up $200 to $300, because I hear what they told me, I was up $200, I was up $300, and I didn't, and then I got wiped out overnight. I always say, if you're up $200 to $300, you're only using $500, guys. Take those small wins every single time. You're up $200, close the position, take the win, look for a new trade, right? Be patient with it, be cerebral with it, because you're going to make more money over the course of a month with those little victories, $200-300 at a time, than you will swinging for haymakers every single trade. Ben says,
I'm cutting out. I don't know.
Can you hear me?
What's going on with my? Yeah, I can hear you. I keep cutting out. I think. I don't know.
Oh, we can hear you fine.
Okay, cool. It's on my end.
Now he's gone. Poof. By the way, guys, also, I do have a second guest coming shortly, so it's a surprise who it's going to be. I think you guys will love it, though. He's back.
Third time's the charm, hopefully. Clarity is just going to make the bed for more banks.
Yeah, 100% agree. Here's the thing. Banks, when they're finished with this whole yield thing, they're coming after custody. That's the next thing on their list, right? So they're going to start saying, well, if we can't custody, we can't compete with exchanges, and it's not fair. Same way they're saying it now. Actually, I saw a video yesterday. It turns out that the statistics, the numbers, are not in line with what the banks have been claiming about, everybody taking their money, like a bank run, and everyone taking their money off out of banks and putting it on exchanges. Turns out that's not the case, because I guess Coinbase and them, they brought these statistics to the table, and it showed that, well, if that's the case, why hasn't that happened yet? Because these exchanges have been offering this yield this whole time, and we haven't seen a bank run on the banks with people dumping their savings accounts into stable coins and staking on Coinbase. Is like, if we haven't seen it up to this point, why would we see it moving forward? This is just a nonsensical fear that you're putting forward to prevent, So
I hear you, but also think about who you're talking about. You're talking about traditional money, right? The people who have hundreds of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, they're not Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a little bit different, right? He's a little bit with it. And these guys are innovative. A lot of them are. They got to be to get to that level. Most of these guys come from traditional backgrounds, whether it's in finance or other things. It's old money. A lot of the wealthiest people in the world, it's old money. There's new wealth too. But for example, talking about the guy that I know personally, who's a friend, he's the most successful crypto investor that I know by far, personally. He doesn't keep his money in the banks. He keeps it staking Solana, staking Ethereum, staking USDC, whatever, to get those yields. And I think the reason why the banks are concerned is not because it's not happening now, but because it could happen. It could happen, and I don't know. Those yields, all it takes is regulatory approval, and then all the grandpas, all the grandmas, all the people who are not so sure about staking their money in crypto, they're going to start looking into it. If the regulations pass, if there's something that's more concrete, if traditional institutions are backing this stuff up, that could change things. Maybe I'm missing something, or I'm just not looking at it the right way.
I think, yeah,
I think they have a right to be concerned. I genuinely think they have a right to be concerned because, as the Bitcoin Cash podcast would say, we're coming for you, banks. We're coming for you. Absolutely, we are. We don't need you. You need us.
I think the flip side of that coin is that those same grandma and grandpas, and let's face it, most of retail investors that are not in crypto and never been in crypto, when banks are allowed to offer yield in crypto and custody crypto, when that happens, those people are just going to go through their banks. They're not going to go try to learn how to make an account and how to stake and all. They're just going to say, Bank of America, buy me this, stake it for me. That's what's going to happen, in my opinion.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Sorry, I misunderstood. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. Why? But here's the deal too. That's going to make them less money because we already stake with banks. That's what having a bank account is. And they give you 0.1% a year. But now with crypto being competitive, now it's not that they're going to all of a sudden be out of business. It's now the margins of profit they're getting are going to greatly diminish because they're going to be forced into a league of competition they weren't forced into before. Even if we still are going through the banks to do this.
Oh, exactly.
Paying 5%, 4%.
Yeah, that's
you
why
pay
banks
1%.
That's why banks are not arguing.
If they do 1%.
Go ahead, buddy.
If they do 1% or 2% yields for us on our dollars, that's like 20 times, 10 times what they're doing now.
Yeah.
That cuts into their profits, into their fractional reserve capabilities.
Yeah, that's why banks are fighting right now. And this is insulting to the intelligence of their own customers. Banks are not fighting for equal opportunity to offer yield. They're fighting to lower the yield exchanges are allowed to offer. They're not fighting to offer the same, and that's insulting, right? They're saying no, because they could be fighting to offer the same, right? And it would be fine, but they're like, wait a minute, no, that cuts into our profits. We want to offer you 0.1% on your crypto, right? So I agree with you 100% on that. That's what they're fighting for at the end of the day. They could offer 5%.
It's the equivalent of offering a service to a small town. You're the only plumber in town, and you make $1 million a year, or maybe make $500,000 a year because you charge an exuberant amount of money because you're the only plumber in town. But then you got a new guy who comes in, and he's just as skilled as you, and he charges half price. And he's still making a killing. He's still making a lot of money, but he's charging half price. That's going to piss you off. That's what's happening. That's literally like the exact comparison there is that. And yeah, they're not happy about it because providing a 4%, 5% yield, even a 2% yield doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But in terms of percentage, that is like 10, 20x more than what they're doing now, even at 2%. So it cuts into their fractional reserve. If you have $100 million deposited into your bank, and you only have to keep 0.001% of that in your bank, versus now you have to keep 1%. That's less money that the banks are allowed to invest or push around or lend, and that hurts them.
And here's the thing: this is coming from a Canadian. I've said this a few times now. What the banks are fighting for is anti-American, because in America, from my understanding, competition in the business world is one of the pillars of foundations of the United States of America, is the ability to come in and be innovative, be disruptive, and compete. But banks are fighting to have a monopoly and not allow any other company to come in and compete against them. That's anti-American. That's just my
anti-American. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. It really is. It goes against the whole founding fathers principality there, because the whole purpose is to, of America, which it's not a perfect world. There still are monopolies, legal monopolies. The banking system is a perfect example of that. Pharmaceutical industry is another one, but there's, it is anti-American, but they don't care. They don't care. They can do it and get away with it because they got enough money to to push things around, and the legal loopholes that they can do to have a monopoly without having a monopoly, quote unquote. You know?
Gonna get into a couple of these super chats. Fridge says, looks like we have flipped 2025 on Quebec into Zebek into support. Thoughts? What do you think, buddy?
You did say you're Canadian. That's
we flipped Quebec into support. We're charting Canada. Oh man.
Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let me see here. Share screen. I'm going to select the window. Tell me if I mess it up, okay? I think that this should be fine, but let me just see. Does that work?
Hang on.
Are we good? Did I cut out again?
I'm just trying to add it to the screen. It's not letting me though. I think it's because you're delayed. I don't know why it's. Oh, hang on a sec. Never mind.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, now you've got your StreamYard up. Now you're good. Yeah.
Okay. So Zebek, yeah, 100%. I mean, you look at this here on the daily time frame, right? Here we are. We just back tested this prior area of resistance. You look at this, and that looks good, right? That looks nice in itself. You're finding support at prior resistance. You're finding support at prior support. That looks good. But we look at this on the 4-hour time frame, and it tells a little bit more of a story. There's a little bit more going on here because you found support right here all at this resistance, which I think is more significant. But either way, however you want to look at it on a 4-hour or a daily time frame, you are finding support. You are back testing. And I think this has turned out to be more than just a pump and dump. And I could be wrong, right? Yesterday, I made my video on Zebek, and we were literally down here. And I was like, I know that it looks super scary, but I still think that we could come up and even go above this high. I very much believe, guys, what you did here was you were boring. You consolidated. The weak hands got out. Now people are FOMOing. They're getting a chance to come back in. Weak hands are shaking out. They're getting scared, whatever. This is the breakout. And I don't have the volume on this chart. It's not the right chart for that. I don't want to pull it up just because my internet has been screwy. And I don't want to risk it. But there's a lot of volume here. It's breakout volume. And we look at this for what it is. We look at this here. And these dots connect very, very well. Doesn't mean that they have to continue to connect. But if we were to come up from here and touch this trend line, even if it was like 4 weeks out from now, if we were to touch that trend line all the way out in like the end of April, that's another 30% pump. And that would come right here in the middle of the heart of this zone where you had resistance back here, where you had support here, support, resistance. You take the all-time high to the relative low back in February. You're in between your 0.5 and your golden ratio zone. There's a scenario, Zebekians out there, and don't get excited. It's exciting for a second, but don't get excited. There's a scenario where this move could take you above this trend line, and still you could come back down to these levels, later. Maybe you hold it up, whatever. But there's a lot of potential here, and I do believe that there's more to go. Absolutely, I do. That the stochastics look great. RSI is showing strength. You're holding support here where you've historically shown support before. You're actually even a little bit lower there, holding support on a price level right here, just like literally at prior resistance, prior support back here. It's structurally speaking, it's awesome, but it's only awesome for a designated amount of time. And then, the real test comes. And if you pass, that doesn't mean it's through the floor or through the roof right now. If you fail, that doesn't mean the floor. You're just in this range for right now. And for right now, I think we're in the heart of it. We're going to move up a little bit more. That's really all I want to say on that. Let's see, I don't know how to stop.
Yeah, I have a monster bull flag on my daily time frame for Zebek. And check that out. Look at the size of this sucker. This thing's been going for a while.
Yeah.
Rejected perfectly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think when this finally does break, for me, it could still be a while before it breaks. But I think 1 cent, 2 to 1.5 cents is going to be the break number on this when it finally does. And it could be even higher. I mean, we all know the longer we stay inside of a bullish structure, right, the more violent we're going to go to the upside. So, I mean, look, we spent
and
most
nothing
of
that's.
What?
Sorry, I'm sorry. It's the lag. It's the delay. You go.
Yep.
You finish.
Oh, I was just going to say, we spent all of this time down here a long time ago in accumulation on Zebek, way back here before we had that initial pop. And man, we made out like bandits on that one.
Heck yeah. I remember, Rob, you were a beacon of, hey, buy this thing before it takes off. I mean, that was one of the better calls of that time frame for sure, man. And even in the low points, you were consistently faithful, and that's admirable, man. A lot of people don't like to talk about things even at the low points, and it it's pretty cool. It's pretty good stuff. That was a really good call. I wish I bought back then. You were trying to get me to buy, man. I remember, and I didn't. I definitely want to buy some Zebek. I do like it as a project. I'm just fully deployed in Bitcoin Cash and Onyx Coin and KTA. If I have extra capital, and when I do, and I'm building some extra capital right now, actually, I would like to buy some Zebek. Not right now, but maybe if it comes back down, maybe in a few months, even the same prices, maybe in a few months. Don't like the tokenomics of Linnea or Canton. I don't know much about Linnea or Canton. Personally,
I'm looking in deeper into the tokenomics on Liena, because here's the thing. For me, if you've got a max supply of 10 billion and only 1.5 billions in circulation, what you want to look for is, first of all, you want to decide how long you plan on holding this project, right? If it's 2 years, okay, well then I'd want to look up what's the token unlock schedule for the next 24 months. And let's say that it's 15%, right? But then after that 24 months, or let's say 12, okay, 15% over 12 months, that sounds more realistic, right? But then after that 12 months, for the following 12 months, it's like 30, 40%. Well, what do you care what the token unlock schedule is after you no longer plan on holding it? A lot of people make that mistake, right? You only need to be concerned with the tokenomics and the unlock schedule for the time frame that you plan on holding the coin, not in general. And a lot of people make that mistake, I find. So, and as for Canton, here's the thing about Canton. A lot of people misunderstand the tokenomics on that as well, because they say, well, it's an infinite supply and they mint. Yes, but they have a counter burn mechanism. They call it an equilibrium mechanism that they have put in place so that the supply stays static, right? So that's what a lot of people don't really understand about Canton. And as far as Paul Barron's network fighting the project, his main argument was Canton is not decentralized, and it's, a lot of most of the holders are whales or whatever, right? The boys, good old boys club, he calls it. Well, I mean, then you could make the same argument about Bitcoin, right? Most of the big holders. I mean, how much does how much of the supply of Bitcoin does Michael Saylor hold? Like 700 and something thousand coins. Archie, what's up, buddy?
Hey man, how's it going? It's good to be on the show. What's good, guys?
What's going on? Caesar's a little laggy, but he's here.
There we go. Man. How's it going, Caesar?
I can't even see Archie right now. I don't hear him or see him. But what's up, Archie? If you can hear me,
loud and clear.
Yeah, he has to keep popping in and out because it's internet.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, it's bad. One thing I wanted to say about Zebek before we move on is the structure here of this chart, you guys, because a lot of people were dogging on it and just calling it a piece of crap, saying that the team was abandoning it or something. Like, I heard all kinds of FUD. Oh, here I am. There I go. I wonder if you guys can still hear me.
We can hear you.
If you can, I'll complete the thought. Nobody's abandoning it. I mean, look at the structure. The structure is awesome, man. There's interest in the community. There's low liquidity, but they're building, they're making partnerships, they're branding, they're marketing, they're doing their stuff. Structure to me is positive, not negative. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things that I look at when it comes to projects. One of the biggest things is, like, especially in bear market conditions, are they continuing to develop? Are they continuing to work? Or are they just radio silent and just you're not seeing anything out of them, right? I mean, so yeah. Maximus Crypto, what's up, buddy? My brother Max in the house. Blockchain Buzz, let's go. What's going on, buddy? All right.
What's up? Shout out to Maximus Crypto. Hey Maximus Crypto, I've been a subscriber for like over a year now, man.
We actually
I
created
like
a
your work.
channel.
Appreciate what you
We,
do.
we created a channel together called Coin Vault that me, him, and Rue Black, we do exclusive content over there. But it's always the three of us, never individuals. So it's pretty cool. It's exploding in popularity. But Archie, what's up, buddy? Let's give you the floor. What's happening, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It seems like every time we speak, a lot's happened with the market. This time, not so much, even though there's actually a lot going on outside of the crypto space right now, with the geopolitical stuff. And I'm caught up right in the middle of it, right? Being in Dubai. So it's interesting to see how well Bitcoin has held up, when you consider everything. And you guys know that I've been fully set on the whole kind of 50-week and 200-week moving average thing with Bitcoin. And it's interesting to see that it hasn't lost the 200-week, despite everything that's going on, despite all the FUD, the S&P 500 coming down a little bit. I think the FOMC wasn't particularly bullish either. You've got to give some props to Bitcoin, considering the fact it hasn't gone to a new low.
Yeah, it's still putting in those higher highs and higher lows. Yeah, we were talking earlier about how probably about 80,000 maybe before a rejection by the end of maybe April. It's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Archie,
yeah,
what are your thoughts? Oh, sorry. I'm like lagging behind too. I keep cutting Rob off. Do you think the bottom is in?
So the phrase that I've been using on my channel is the bottom for me is either in or very close to being in. And I know that's kind of like dodging the question a little bit, but I think it really doesn't matter too much, because if we go down to 55K or 53K, I really don't see a huge difference between 55 and 59. It's kind of the same as back in 2022. We had 17K as the first low in June, the first capitulation, and then we had 15K as the final lower low in November. And if something similar to that happens, where 60K was the first low and 55K is the second low, there's a chance that some of the alts actually bottomed at the 60K low compared to the 55K low. And I'm predominantly in altcoins. I do have maybe a third of my portfolio in Bitcoin, but the rest is in altcoins. So that's really what I'm bothered about. And I truly believe that most of the top quality alts reached a point of capitulation during that recent dump we had down to 59K or whatever it was on Bitcoin. And if you take a look at a lot of the charts, you can see that they held major support levels. If you look at Ethereum, it has that major trend line stemming back years. If you look at the others chart, it's in a similar position as well. If you look at Tau, has the exact same trend line. A bunch of the alts have, they've supported their major support levels. And for me, we could go lower, but I only see a move significantly lower if we have a black swan event. And it's difficult to predict a black swan event because that's the very nature of a black swan event, right? Like, you can't predict them. They could come from nowhere. So it's possible we could have a black swan event. We've seen them in the past. We had the COVID crash. That was a black swan event. We had the FTX crash. That kind of took us further down than maybe we would have gone if that didn't happen, because there was very strong signals that 17K or whatever were, 17 to 20K was going to be the bottom. And then FTX came, and that was kind of like the capitulation move that put in that final low. So unless we get a major black swan event, and like I said, I can't predict what it will be. It could be a nuclear weapon being detonated. It could be a new virus. It could be a major crypto exchange going bust. It could be a stable coin collapsing. We don't know what it will be. But unless we get something like that, I don't see a move below 50K personally.
Yeah, I think that, trying to time the bottom, like my buddy Jesse always says, it's like trying to sort the fly shit from the pepper, right? I mean, don't even try it, man. Just, I've been just DCing and just, For the last, I think we're at day. I do consistent videos daily over on our Patreon where I put my buys in. I show everybody what I'm buying, and I started that about 40. I think today was like day 43 or something like that. So I've been buying every single day for about 43 days now, and hopefully this is the bottom range. I agree. I do think it is the bottom range, but I'm not going to split hairs. I mean, think back to 2022 when Bitcoin was 15K and you had all of these large YouTubers saying that we were going down to 9K and they were advising people to sell their bags at 15 and buy back in at 9. And then what happened? We shot back up to like 21, and then we just kept progressively going up from there, right?
For sure. And the interesting thing about 2022 as well is that Ethereum and BNB, literally the two biggest alts, both bottomed in June, right? So even if we do go lower with Bitcoin, it's not a given that Ethereum or Solana or BNB goes lower, right? Now, some alts might here and there, especially the weaker ones, you'd expect them to put in a lower low. But I do believe alts, they have a bear market maybe 3x the speed and the velocity of Bitcoin. And what's interesting in particular about this bear market, and by the way, I have been calling a bear market for at least 6 months maybe or whatever. So I think now most people assume that it is a bear market. But what's interesting about this bear market in particular is that Bitcoin went from all-time highs to the 200-week, assuming that was a hit. I know it was a hair away, but I still kind of count it as a hit. Bitcoin went from the all-time high to the 200-week like 3 times quicker than it did in 2018. In 2018, it took the whole entire year. It took exactly 1 year from December to December, from all-time high to the bottom. In 2021 to 2022, it took like maybe half a year, something like that, or just over half a year, like 7 months maybe. This time around, it took like a few months. It happened so quick, if you count that as a hit. I know it was a hair away for those in the comments. But that to me proves that like this bear market happened a lot quicker than normal. We hit capitulation a lot quicker than normal. If you look at the RSI on the weekly, you can see it's clearly oversold. And this to me, in some way, resembles more of like a mid-cycle correction. I know it's a bear market, but when you zoom out and you look at the weekly or you look at the 2-week chart on Bitcoin, this looks more like 2019 than it does 2022 or 2018. And that makes me think that there will be a very strong bounce back from here. And people find it crazy, but I was the most bearish person in the room for the past few months. But I'm actually the most bullish in most rooms I find myself in for the next 2 years. I do see Bitcoin going way beyond 200K, potentially even 300K in the next couple of years. And that's why, you know, I think this is the time to buy. Whenever Bitcoin's in the 60s, you should be buying. And that comes from someone who, you know, sold a lot higher and now bought back in. So I definitely think people should be buying the dips. And it's interesting that all the people who were really, really bullish a few months ago, you know, now they're all flipping bearish. Now they're getting super bearish. And that to me is a sign of capitulation in and of itself.
Well, there's definitely a lot to unpack there. I know Cesar was saying something similar a little while ago in the stream. He was talking about the previous 2019 cycle there and how this looks more like a mid-cycle correction than anything else. So you guys are definitely on the same page there. But two other things that I want to unpack with that. One, and I want to put this question to both of you guys. Do you guys think that the fact that we corrected so much faster this time around, we came down, do you guys, give credit to the fact that Bitcoin hit a new all-time high before the halving event, maybe as a cause, or like this cycle's been so different? Cesar, you got your hand up.
I'd like to weigh in on that. So I think certain metrics like the ones we're looking at can give us a false sense of the speed. And I don't think this bear market is actually happening faster. We are approaching the 200-week moving average faster than before, and that is true. And we saw new all-time highs before the halving, and that is true as well. But we also had last cycle, not like the bull market that we just finished, but the 2021 bull market. we had, I don't know if I cut out. I don't know if you guys can still hear me.
We can hear you.
In the 2021 bull market, we had a double top. It was lackluster. Damn it, I think I'm cutting out.
We can hear you, man.
I'm gonna have to restart. No? Okay. 2021, we had.
And then he kicks
Now
off.
he is.
That's awesome.
It was
Well,
easy
well,
to
hear the alpha.
Oh, he's back now.
Damn. Am I back? Okay.
You're back,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna try to get it out quick. I'm just gonna go rapid fire. I gotta go soon, anyways. 2021, we had a lackluster bull cycle, so it was actually easier to see new all-time highs because from the way of like the Fibonacci extensions, we were at a lower extension than we'd ever seen before. Therefore, when we got to an area in the extensions or in our fib in our growth rate that we would normally see, we were already at a new all-time high because we had a lackluster cycle. I think it's the same thing here. We're in the 2019 cycle, we had a parabolic blow-off rally, so we were very far away from the 200-week moving average. So of course, it's going to take more time to get back there. Where here, if you look at this bull cycle compared to the 2018 or the 2017 bull cycle, we were a lot closer, even in the bull cycle, to the 200-week moving average. So it does seem like we're moving faster, but if you look at it from a percentage point, from a top to the drop that we've seen, we're not really actually moving percentage-wise that much faster. And correspond, and that's so it's interesting. It's weird to the upside and to the downside. It's so lackluster that it's not that we're moving faster or slower. We're kind of doing different things, at least over the past couple cycles, I think, than we have done historically beforehand. That's just my thought.
Yeah. I think the move to the 200, like I'm just talking based off the major moving averages, not in terms of percentage wise, because we are going to get diminishing returns as well, right? To the downside.
Yes.
But yeah, there's definitely some truth in what you're saying for sure. And like in terms of the top signals, like none of the top signals flashed, right? None of the major top signals flashed. And I didn't expect any of them to flash this time around. I was expecting a lackluster bull market for Bitcoin. But next time around, I do expect them to flash. This whole idea that just because they didn't flash last time means they're never going to flash again in the future and Bitcoin's just going to go to 130K or 140K next bull run, I think that's idiotic, quite frankly. I think it's ridiculous. But yeah, there's certain reasons why we didn't have the parabolic bull run that we usually have. And that's why maybe it does feel quicker, but in reality, it's not been that much quicker in terms of percentage wise, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you the
20 like less dramatic.
Yeah, the 2022 bear market definitely felt drawn out and longer than what's been happening this time around for sure. Feels quicker. And I'll take it. I mean, I'll take it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want time to accumulate still. I'm still buying. And I plan on continuing to do so on a daily basis until we really start to take off again. But I think we're range bound in this bottom range for the foreseeable future anyway. So I think there's some opportunity. But anyone who's holding on, here's the thing: is that I'm finding that a lot of people that are still here in crypto are wasting this time, right? Like a lot of people are upset that the market didn't do what they were hoping it would do in the last cycle, which is fine, right? But I'm seeing online still a whole lot of people who are still, venting that and being upset and being angry instead of using this time to either learn how to handle this market properly, learn how to structure a portfolio, learn how to trade, learn how to do proper research, whatever the case is. They're not doing these things, right? And this is the time, this is your opportunity, because if you're not doing that stuff, to those people and everyone who left and is not here now, you're going to end up being the people who are buying all of our bags when we're selling them 2 years from now, right? So who do you want to be?
Yeah, 100%. I don't understand why people capitulate at the lows.
Are you gonna head out, Cesar?
Yeah, I gotta head out. There's one thing I want to leave you guys with. Anybody watching this, and then you guys, because you guys are analysts, measure from the last 3 bear markets. Even I think the last, like every bear market we've had, go to the lowest price when the bear market ended and see how long it took from that low to see new all-time highs. Not to like get in a bull market, not to start an uptrend, any of that, but from the bear market low, not to the bull market high, but from the bear market low to the time it took to get to a new all-time high. You'll see that after we find the low, it typically takes about 2 years before we see new all-time highs. So my question there would be, because in the sense of, are we moving faster? You know, if we're going to be at new all-time highs before the next 2 years, like that maybe we are moving faster, maybe things are picking up, or are we going to have less of a bear market, more of a crab market? Things will be more boring, and we've really got probably about 2 years or another year and a half before things actually start to get exciting, regardless of going up or down. That was one thing I wanted to get out in the essence of the timing that we were talking about as well. But I do have to go. Just closing thoughts there.
All right, buddy. Have fun with your family,
Archie,
man.
Rob, yeah,
Goodbye,
good
man.
to see you guys. Hope everything's going well. Like Archie, seriously want to give you props because you've really been killing it, man. Rob, you've been killing it too. But yeah, you've been lethal. Everybody, give these guys a like and a follow. Take it easy, everybody. Thank you.
See you later, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's absolutely right, man. I was gonna say that. I've been keeping track, man, and you've been crushing it over there. I've been watching, man, and you've been nailing it. With a lot of your calls, you sold at the right time. You've been buying in at the right time. You're definitely leading your community in the right direction, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's super tricky to do that. But I guess it's just obsession, right? I've been obsessed with the market for years and years now. So when you basically do one thing, you don't have kids to deal with and stuff like that. I mean, you'd be surprised if you couldn't buy low and sell high, right? I mean, that's the one job I have, is to buy low and sell high. So as long as I'm doing that, then I guess it's me doing my job.
Well, that's what I try to tell people is that crypto is so easy that it's difficult, right? People overcomplicate it. They let too many voices in terms of white noise, like over on X and on YouTube and all this stuff. And that causes people to jump on these emotional roller coasters or these crazy expectations when really, at the end of the day, I mean, like you say, if you just sold when you lost the 50 week and bought when you're around the 200 week, you'd be all right. You know?
Right. Yeah, you would have protected your capital to an insane degree. I mean, most altcoins I sold, I was able to buy back in literally, a good few months later, half or even 70% on discount. And where else could you do that, right? I always say, I wish I could sell a property and then 6 months later or 5 months later be able to buy it, or be able to buy 3 of them on the same street, right next to each other. And that's essentially what you're able to do in crypto if you understand the macro charts. And it does take experience, and it takes failure to understand it. But I always tell people with altcoins in particular, the number one rule is to not round trip them. With Bitcoin, you can do that. But the number one rule with altcoins is to always protect your capital and to always look at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin leads the altcoins. It's not the other way around. You don't look at altcoins in isolation, because people always ask me, oh, look at this altcoins chart. It looks like it's going to break out. Well, let me check Bitcoin first, and then we'll do some analysis on the altcoin, right? But people don't understand that. And they come from the stock market world and they think that like each company is completely on its own and it's based off its own kind of metrics. And, like in the stock market, you have earnings for each different company. So it makes sense. Some days Nvidia does great, whereas Meta does bad, and they all kind of move sometimes on their own, but obviously there's still a collective movement to them. But in crypto, it is literally the case where altcoins pretty much just follow Bitcoin, with orders of magnitude more growth or loss if it's a bear market, right?
Yeah, a lot of times I'll do like a charting video on any given altcoin, Sabac or whatever, Tau, whatever it is, right? And it'll get like a ton of views. But then I'll do one for Bitcoin and it gets half the views. And I'm just like, it should be the opposite, right? You should and that, like you said, people don't understand. You need to know what Bitcoin's doing before you can decide what whatever altcoin you're looking at is going to do, right? It could be in a bullish structure, but guess what? If Bitcoin, has a meltdown, it's going to invalidate that bullish structure on your altcoin. It's going to break to the downside, like a bull flag. 70% chance to the upside. Guess what? 30% chance to the downside, right? And it happens. So
Yeah.
but
Yeah, there's been so many times I've seen such a perfect setup with an altcoin, and then Bitcoin rolls over and it's just a fake out. It's just a fake breakout. And that's why I don't do too much isolated TA on alts. I do obviously look at that, but I don't place as much emphasis on the isolated altcoins as maybe other people do. I really just look at Bitcoin and let Bitcoin tell me what's going to happen. And right now, Bitcoin is telling me that we have reached exhaustion at 60K or 59K or whatever the bottom was. Could we go a little bit lower? Yes. And I actually hope we go a little bit lower, because that is actually my bull case. As crazy as it sounds to people, it would be more bullish if we go lower, because that will create a bullish divergence on the weekly RSI, which always marks cycle bottoms. And it will literally confirm to everyone, all of the smart money, all of the people in stablecoins, that we have officially reached exhaustion, because that's what a divergence tells you. It tells you that the sellers are exhausted, and they're losing momentum. They're losing strength. It's the relative strength index. So it would actually be my bull case if we go lower, because it will lead me to more of a firm belief that we will now have a very sustained rally for the foreseeable future.
yeah, I agree. I disagree with this comment. Looks like Bitcoin is testing the waters under 40K possible, maybe even 38. I strongly disagree with that. I don't think we go lower than 50 to 55 personally. I know you feel the same way. So, yeah, just be careful out there with this kind of stuff, guys, with like calls for 40, 30, 20. Like, make sure that there's some weight behind it.
Yeah, it's all about probabilities, right? Like, no one's saying it's impossible, but it's not the base case, I don't think, for either of us. And that 38K level, 39K level, it is the 786 fib retracement, which does typically get hit in a bear market. But since we didn't have a parabolic bull market and none of the top signals flashed, I still believe that we're not going to have as deep of a bear market. Now, to some people, that statement doesn't make sense. They think it's flawed logic. But to me, it does make sense, because if you didn't go as high, it makes sense that you wouldn't go as low. I don't know what you think about that, but yeah, we usually go to the 786, but that's because we usually go way above the previous all-time high, and we go to like the highest fib the highest fib extension, right? The highest target. We didn't even get close to that. So I just don't think it makes sense to be calling for 30K or anything like that when we didn't go to like 150K plus. I don't know what you think about that, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you can have it both ways. If people are, saying that this time is different and that's why we didn't go higher or whatever the case might be, well, then you can't go back on that and say that, the bull market is, the bull phase is different, but the bear phase is the same. It doesn't make any sense, right? If the market is changing, the whole market is changing. The whole cycle is changing, not just parts that you want to cherry pick, right? That doesn't work that way.
100%. And like I said, that would be the bear case. That would be the bear case if we had a black swan. But that can't necessarily be your base case, because we might not have a black swan. I mean, they happen every now and then, but like I said, it's very difficult to predict it. We would have thought maybe the war would have been a black swan event, but no, it's not. So maybe we don't go to the 786 this time around, and that is my belief that we won't go there.
Future is a go says, can we consider that the Trump tariffs be considered as a black swan? I don't know. I don't think, because of the tariffs, I don't think we went down that much. October 10th might be considered a black swan. I mean, that was massive, but that was really an accumulation of a couple of things. A lot of market manipulation. We know that, Wintermute, and then we had BlackRock, their stable coin that they were offering yield on, depegged and, crashed. I think it dropped down to like 60 cents or something like that, and liquidated a ton of people as a result of that, right? People were borrowing against it so that they could stake it and get yield, or leverage it and get yield, or something like that. I don't remember the exact details of that situation, but that was one of the biggest catalysts. OKX CEO did a big breakdown of what Binance did there. I remember reading about it in a video. So I guess that could kind of be considered a black swan, or COVID was a black swan, but I don't think the tariffs were a black swan. No, I don't think that they crashed markets bad enough to call them a black swan event.
Yeah, it's all about timing, right? Like a black swan, you expect it's like instant, like an instant couple day dump, whereas this was more of like a prolonged unwinding, right? Like people were, I mean, it wasn't slow, it was fast, but it wasn't just like a couple days. For it to be a black swan, I think it has to be that one Monday the stock market opens, it crashes down like 15% or whatever. That's a black swan. This was a gradual sell-off. I mean, it started off, I guess it was somewhat of a black swan. Remember when he came out with that board and it had all the different tariff percentages? That did spook the markets. But was it enough of a dump to be considered a black swan, I guess, is the question.
Yeah. We were talking earlier about the Clarity Act, and one of my concerns is too many people are talking about the Clarity Act as though it's already passed into law. And I feel like there's still a possibility, whether it's a small possibility or not, that like if the Clarity Act doesn't pass soon, we switch focus over to midterms, and Democrats win the midterms. Guess what? You could be looking at 2 years before we see the Clarity Act come back up again, right? So I don't know, man. Like, what do you think about that? Do you think do you think there's more of a possibility that it gets delayed longer than people are anticipating?
Well, I think Polymarket's saying that it should get passed. So I usually just go with whatever Polymarket's saying, because Polymarket knows better than me. I think it's given it like a 70% chance of it being passed into law this year. But I'm with you that if it doesn't get passed this year, it's not going to get passed anytime soon, because I personally think the Republicans are going to face a devastating defeat in the midterms. I think they're on track for that. And I think time isn't on Trump's side to recoup the lost opinion, the lost voters. So I do expect the Democrats to win the midterms quite big. And that's really going to basically just make Trump a lame duck president. And he won't be able to get anything passed in the last 2 years of his term. So yeah, it's really now or never. But Polymarket still says that it's got more likely of a chance of getting passed than not. So I'll still stick with that. But I'm with you. If it doesn't get passed this year, it's toast. I mean, there's no chance the Republicans win the midterms for me.
Yeah, and I want people to understand, I'm not saying it's not going to get passed. What I'm saying is that too many people, mentally and emotionally invest in a certainty of something taking place, and they rely on it. And somebody had asked me in a stream last week if I thought that the market was going to go parabolic immediately after the Clarity Act passed, and I said no. I said I think that it in the grand scheme of things, the markets will benefit, yes, but no. Do I think they're going to go parabolic right away? No, I don't think that's going to shift us back into some sort of mega bull run or anything. And the guy was like, "Oh, you're asinine," and I was like, "Okay, I mean, whatever you say."
Yeah, man, these news events, they don't move the needle, really. I mean, remember when XRP won the lawsuit? Everyone was adamant, telling me XRP is going to go to $10. It's going to go to $20 the moment they win the lawsuit. And it literally went up like 10% or something and came straight back down. It was an absolute nothing burger. And that is why you should never really look at news events in terms of determining your bullish outcomes. I mean, the Clarity Act could get passed. It causes a little 5 or 10% pump, and then we just come straight back down because it's already priced in. I mean, the big players, they already know the legislation that will be passed or not passed. So they probably already positioned themselves by now for this. So if anyone buys, it's probably just going to be retail. Yes, the Clarity Act should onboard a lot of smart money and institutional money, but it's going to take time. It's not all going to flood in the moment that it gets passed. And yeah, I do think people are probably already positioning themselves beforehand. And yeah, maybe it's a short-term pump, but I don't expect it to be like this thing that kickstarts a major move to the upside. I hope that's the case, but I've learned my lesson too many times expecting news events to be the beginning of a bull run or anything like that. Even the ETFs, remember when they got passed? It's the same story.
Yeah, Ethereum actually went down after the Ethereum ETF. It's funny you mentioned the Bitcoin, XRP getting declared not a security, because I remember that, and just by happenstance, right, that 2 weeks beforehand, I made a video and I talked, because everyone was talking about a $10 XRP, and I made a video saying, guys, I said probably 80 to 90 cents tops, right? It was like 30, 40 cents at the time or something like that. And that's what I was saying. I said, guys, listen, there's no money in the markets right now. These markets pump based on liquidity, not on catalysts, right? Where's the money going to come from to shoot XRP up to $10 from like 40 cents, right? Don't listen to these people that are telling you this, because you're setting you up. And then what happens? You get mad at the project because it didn't go where you thought it was going to go. And then you're fucking scam this, and you're angry at that. And when meanwhile, it's just your expectations that were unrealistic. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, the judge declares it not a security. It hit like 80 something cents and came all the way back down to like 40, 50 cents. I said, I told you guys, like, was never going to $10. It didn't even hit $10 in a bull market.
Honestly, man, trading and investing based off news is the number one way to get wrecked. I always say it. You could have bad news come out and the market pumps because of the context of the market, because you're in a bull market. And in a bull market, the market can ignore bad news. It can actually pump on bad news. And in a bear market, the market can ignore good news. You could have the biggest, most amazing news come out ever in a bear market, and the market might dump. It might have a little pump and then instant dump. The sellers outweigh it because they were all waiting for that news event to sell. So just don't look at the news. I mean, or look at it, but don't use it to base your investments off, right? I look at the news. I read the news maybe 3 to 4 hours a day. I'm reading the news or watching the business news or whatever, but I never use it to justify my investments or my trades, because that is the number one way to get wrecked. And if you don't think that, you'll think it at some point and you'll learn your lesson.
Yeah, exactly. You have to stay up on the news so that you're apprised of the macro of what's going on and what can affect markets, but you shouldn't be using that as your investment strategy, right? And I agree 100% with that.
Yeah.
Tony says, Rob, you still bullish on Nadix? Yes, I am. They still produce the cameras for the Teslas. Here's the misconception or mistake people make when it comes to Nadix is that they think that Nadix is trying to compete with Google Maps, not realizing all along that Google is actually partnered with Nadix for this. So I think that eventually what they're doing is just going to be integrated into Google Maps. They're not competing with Google Maps. They're working with Google Maps. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. Is people say, well, why would people need what they're doing if Google Maps is there? And on top of all that, guys, you can never have that kind of mindset either with anything, is that, well, we have this, so why would we ever need anything better? Really? Because, I mean, blockchain, right? Right? So robotics, AI, I mean, the list goes on and on. Every cycle you see new, updated, more advanced layer ones coming out every single cycle and stuff like that. So, I mean, you're always going to continue to see progression in every aspect of society. So to say, well, we have this, so why would we? Well, we had big, bulky cell phones that weighed like 10 pounds at 1.2. Then what if we decided to say, well, what do we need smartphones for? We got these big, bulky things here, right? So it's just something to think about. So what have you been kind of looking at over on your channel? What projects are you looking at outside of your, I mean, obviously outside of your private communities projects?
Yeah, so one of the biggest ones has been Tau. I went pretty heavy into Tau, $145. That was the level I went really heavy in after being in stable coins for the whole year and most of Q4. And it literally doubled, literally within a couple weeks because this whole decentralized AI thing is coming back. So I think Tau is going to be a huge player. I honestly don't know where it can go. It's hard to even set a target for it because it has the potential to be like a top 10 or top 5 crypto in the future. But Tau's the big one. I think that is going to be insane in terms of its potential because there's going to be this big urge to move over to decentralized AI because people are finding out that AI is going to take over, right? And I think people want some parameters on the centralization of it. They want to reduce the control that AI has over us. They want it to be more open source so we can see transparently what's going on. And yeah, I think there is going to be this move towards decentralization with AI because the NVIDIA CEO, Jensen, he literally came out and said that they are going to be making their own decentralized AI agent platform. It's going to be open source and it's going to be decentralized. And that automatically kickstarted this whole pump with Tau, alongside one of their subnets doing very well as well. So Tau would be the big one. I think Casper's great at these prices as well. It's teasing a breakout. I don't know if we're going to get it, but it's showing signs that it wants to break out. So really my top altcoins haven't changed. I'm still very bullish on Casper. I'm still very bullish on Tau. Sui, I still think, is a great rival to Solana. So really I'd be looking for those types of picks, the ones that have been around for a few years, not too new, but also not too old. And people say that we're going to have that curse where usually the alts from last bull run all die out, but I don't think that's going to be the case because these alts, like Casper, like Sui, like Tau, they didn't fulfill their potential. So usually the ones that die out are the ones that literally went to super overbought prices. You look at Polkadot last bull run, went to like 40 billion or something in valuation. You look at Axie Infinity, went to 10 billion in valuation. You look at Cardano, went to 85 billion in valuation. It makes sense that those ones didn't come back this time around. But I mean, Sui and Tau and Casper, they only went to a few billion. So I don't think we can have this assumption that these types of alts are going to be dead next bull run. I think that's very naive and it doesn't add in the context behind the 2025 bull run.
I agree. I'm still very bullish on Caspa as well. Question for you: do you think that Caspa is going to do the same thing it did last time and peak early ahead of everything else? Because Caspa topped and had a monster run way before everything else did. And I know that it's partially because it was brand new, but do you think it's going to do something similar, or do you think it's going to fall in line with everything else? And
it's hard to know, but what I would say is I expect it to be one of the early movers of the bull run because we're already seeing that the sellers are extremely exhausted. It's been in a bear market since around the summer of 2024, whereas most altcoins peaked in 2025, either in January or in October. So I do think it's going to be one of those first movers because it was one of the first dumpers, right? It began its bear market before everything else. And I truly believe that at some point, there is going to be a big rush towards Casper just because of how decentralized it is and the fact that it is really the closest thing in terms of principle to Bitcoin. And it has the scalability to make it more mainstream in terms of for payments and things like that. So it's really difficult to know whether it will peak early, but I do think it's going to be one of the first movers. I mean, Casper, it's always been underrated for me, but it's just waiting for the right time. I think what you need is this kind of move away from the centralized projects. You need that to be a kind of narrative going on. Maybe there's a big issue with a heavily centralized project. Maybe something like Solana or Sui has a really big problem because of the centralization. And then suddenly people flock over to decentralized networks. We saw a privacy rally at the back end of last year into 2026. I was quite surprised Casper didn't pump during that privacy rally. I know Casper isn't a privacy coin, but privacy and proof of work, they almost go together in the sense that they are decentralized, right? They're not these super centralized CBDC enabling projects. So I was surprised Casper didn't pump then, but I think what it needs is that kind of narrative to come back of looking out for the decentralized projects. And unfortunately, I don't really see that happening anytime soon. But if that happens, Casper will be one of the first coins to absolutely explode. It's just hard to know when that narrative will come back.
Yeah. Speaking of Tau, I remember because I was watching it at $175, and I was like, you know what? And this is the thing, guys. Like, even someone who's been around for a couple cycles now, you can make these mistakes, and it's a mistake that I try to teach people to learn from. Is that I figured, you know what? I'm gonna wait. I think we got a little bit lower to go, and I waited, and guess what? Now here I am on the sidelines waiting for it to come back down so I can find a decent entry point, right? So lesson learned. I mean, and here's the thing, guys. I always say altcoins are like standing at a bus stop. If you miss one, there's another one coming around the corner in 15 minutes. There's never going to be a shortage of opportunities in the altcoin space, that's for sure, if you're observant and you're paying attention. But that also just tells you, don't try and time things because it never seems to work out. You want to share something there?
Yeah, I've got my Tau chart up on the screen here. You can see that it's in this massive range.
Yeah.
So we still haven't seen any major macro breakout. We've seen a short-term breakout on the daily, but we still haven't seen any macro breakout. This is what led me to buying Tau at 145. I know it was actually below the range, 145. It was right at the bottom there. But the reason I bought there was because I predicted that would just be a wick and that we would somehow manage to close the week back into the range. And that's a very risky thing to do. I'll admit that. It wasn't necessarily a smart thing to do. Looking back, obviously it was because I bought the exact bottom, but it wasn't necessarily a smart thing to do. It was a bit of a risky thing because I was buying a loss of support. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking this will just be a wick. We'll manage to get back up. And if that happens, it will be the exact bottom. So you haven't, if you're not in Tau, you haven't necessarily missed the project. I mean, its all-time high is at 773. It's still in the 200s, right? So yeah. I bet people would have been so surprised back then if you said to them it will be in the 200s. They would have bought as much of it as they could if you would have told them that. So I still think it's cheap, but it probably will have a bit of a correction here. I'm looking at Bitcoin right now, and I'm not super bullish in the short term. I want to be clear, in the short term, because in the long term, I'm very bullish. But in the short term here, if we go on the 4 hour, you can, let me just go up a bit here. On the 4 hour, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, we have this kind of rising channel or wedge kind of thing going on here. And usually in a bear market, these are just consolidation points that ultimately lead to a breakdown, right? Now, I've given the idea that we could have a potential fake out up to 80K followed by a dump back down. That's a possibility. But there's also a chance that we come down first, either sweep the lows or make a slight lower low, creating the bullish divergence, and then we come up to 80K with a very fast rally. This range here, it hasn't been impulsive enough but me. I would have liked to have seen a bit of an impulsive move already. But the fact that we're still chopping and ranging here makes me think maybe there is one more move down, slightly lower. So it's basically indifferent. Like it's a few percentage points off. But it makes me think there's one slight move lower. And if that happens, you're probably going to be able to buy Tau again at a very cheap price and a lot of alts. Doesn't mean they'll make another low. Like I said earlier, some of the strong altcoins that have had nice rallies from the lows, they may have put in their bear market bottom, and you may never be able to buy Tau again at that level. Or never say never, but not anytime soon, right? Not in the next few years. So this is an interesting chart to me. I want to get your take on it. Do you think we'll get a move up to 80K first? Or do you think maybe we make a new low first and then go to 80K?
I think we're going to go up to 80K first. I've been watching Bitcoin on the daily, and we are continuing to put in higher highs and higher lows. Like 2 days ago, when we started coming down after we had hit, was it 74.9? We started to come down. I said, guys, all we're going to do here is put in a higher low. We would have to come all the way back down to below 65.9 to invalidate a higher low, right? So I said, I think we're just putting in higher lows and higher highs. Same thing. We're in that ascending channel. It is a bullish structure. I think the RSI on the higher time frames too, 49.35 on the daily, also says that we could see that rally up to about 80K before rejecting off. I think that happens first, to be honest. I think that we're setting up a nice little bear flag here. Maybe we come up to that 80K level and then come back down. And that's where I think we hit that 50 to 55K. I'm not so sure we'll stay down between 50 and 55 long. I think we could come down there, and then I think we're going to end up coming back up. Whether we go up and then down or down then up, I think no matter what, we're going to return to the range we're in now for more consolidation. You're muted. You're muted, brother.
I accidentally muted myself. Part of me hopes we can just get the job done and go down like in the next few weeks. I hope that happens, but everyone's kind of thinking that right now. You know, I'm hearing, I sometimes tune into other YouTubers just to hear, you know, just to read the room and hear what people are thinking. And a lot of people, especially some of the reputable people in the space, the knowledgeable people in the space, they are saying that we're probably going to make one more move down here. And just because everyone's saying that, it almost makes me cautious that maybe there's going to be like a move that completely catches everyone off guard up to 80K. And then it's kind of just like a fake out pump. And then we do come back down. But either way, it doesn't really matter. Like, in my opinion, there's maybe one more move down left of the entire cycle, and it's going to be a slight low anyway. It's not going to be a move down to 40K in my eyes. I know a lot of people are saying that. Unless we get a black swan, I don't see that. So, you know, that will be the time to be buying, is when we come back down into the 60s again. If we come back down, I deployed 90% of my stables at between 59 and 64K, 90%. I only have 10% stables left. And I know that may sound crazy to some people, but I didn't want to risk it. For me, that was the range I was looking to buy. I wanted to buy around the 200-week moving average. That was around the 200-week moving average. So I just went all in. Could we go a little bit lower? Yes, I'll just buy some more. But I'm not nickel and diming it too much here, because this is the same thing that people did last cycle, like you said earlier, where some people were saying we go down to 13K and they weren't buying at 15. It's like, it's crazy. So what if we go down to 13? We're at 15 now. Buy now. And if we go lower, buy a little bit more. Why are you nickel and diming? Like, why would you begin your DCA process right at the exact bottom? Like, no, you buy the bottoming range, as me and you always say. And people can't get that into their heads, which really frustrates me.
Yeah, looking at the heat map right now too, it's kind of equal, man. It's fairly equal looking on both ends here. So you could see a flush out both ways. I could see where we come up, liquidate all the shorts, and then we come down for that leg down. I do think that's what's going to happen. We got a lot of liquidations around 71.4. It's not even that high from where we are now. Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm looking at too. It's almost even. It's almost even for the longs and the shorts right now. So I think it'll bounce both ways. A little bit of market manipulation. We'll bounce to 80, putting in the higher highs, higher lows. Then we'll move to the downside. We'll hit those lows. I gotta be honest though, man. I'm feeling selfish. I really want the price to stay down so I can continue to buy as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what would take it down to lose this range? I mean, I'm thinking that if this Strait of Hormuz doesn't get opened up quite soon, this is going to start to weigh in badly on markets globally. And we know how interconnected markets are globally. We saw that with the whole tariff situation. And I think that will start to cripple certain economies. And it's this feedback loop, right? It's like it's a chain reaction. One thing goes to another, goes to another, goes to another. If gas prices go up, if oil prices go up, that means people have less money in their pocket. If people have less money in their pocket, that means they spend less, on regular activities. Maybe they don't go on a vacation they would have otherwise went on. Maybe they don't, buy as many clothes, or maybe they don't eat out as much. And then businesses make less profit, then that looks bad on GDP, and then you potentially see some countries in a recession if it goes on for too long. So I think that is the potential scenario that could bring us lower, is if this war just continues to escalate. But wars traditionally are not bearish. That's the thing to mention. Wars traditionally are not bearish. The only reason this one could be is because of how much of an impact it has on global energy markets, right? This one in particular does have the potential to cause some damage to economies compared to other ones, purely because of how much of the world's oil, and not just oil, but how much of the world's resources and trade comes through the Strait of Hormuz. So what do you think about that situation? Do you see it ending anytime soon? Because I personally, I don't see it ending anytime soon. And maybe the market isn't pricing that in. Maybe the market is expecting it to end soon. And if it doesn't, maybe that's the move that brings us down to one more low.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of countries denying Trump's request to help escort ships through the strait and stuff like that. So I think that if it was going to end quickly, it would have ended already. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if most of this year we were dealing with this situation, right? Not shocking at all. Summertime's coming. Oil prices, like you were saying, just naturally in the summertime, gas prices go up. So, you're going to see it with this even more constrained. So, yeah, I agree. You're probably not going to see a lot of appetite for risk on assets as this continues to delay out through most of this year. I agree, unless they do something drastic. Hell, I was looking forward to coming down, meeting you in person, making some content. I was going to be coming to Dubai, as you remember, for the Token 2049, but they canceled Token 2049.
Wow.
Can't
it's
fly
crazy,
in.
man.
So yeah, now I'm going to Vegas instead for the Bitcoin conference, and then I'm going to go to the XRP Las Vegas event because that starts the day after the Bitcoin conference ends. So I was like, I might as well stay for 2 more days and get some content for both events, right?
Yeah, that would be good for sure. It's disappointing that it's been canceled because it would have been good, but I guess that's what's going on right now, and I don't see this war ending anytime soon. I think it's possible that Trump could come out and announce some sort of victory, and then it just resumes again, or there's some sort of short-term ceasefire, and then it resumes again. Trump was de-escalating, I think yesterday, he was giving some de-escalatory words, but that's what they always do before a massive bombardment, right? Before they go full on in. They always kind of calm things down, and then they strike. They're not going to tell you this is when we're going to strike really hard. No, they'll make you think that they're close to achieving their objectives, and then they'll go in even further. So, if oil prices are this high, you can't have risk on rallies. This can't it just won't sustain itself, right? So oil needs to come down. And if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed for a long period of time, oil's not going to come down too much, no matter what they say. You know, there's a lot of talk coming out from the US making out that they're destroying Iran. And don't get me wrong, they've destroyed a lot of the capabilities, but they still can't seem to open up the Strait of Hormuz, right? So no matter the propaganda or the things people say, I'm not convinced that this is fully going in the way that Trump imagined, because I don't think he thought that it would be this difficult to open up the Strait of Hormuz. And no European countries really are enthusiastic to try and help open it up. So we've got to expect oil being high.
That's one of the bigger problems too. Exactly, is that they're not willing to help right now. That could change, but Paul was asking in the chat, Crypto's Archie's channel. So here it is on your screen, guys. Make sure you go and sub. Absolutely, that's where I go. I'm always popping in. Sometimes I pop in the chat under my alias. I'm under Rob, so sometimes I pop in there, and but I'm always watching, man. I'm always checking it out. That's how I know you've been crushing it lately, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend, everyone joins your group as well. Check out both groups, right? Because we were saying in the last stream that you should definitely be in a community, because if you're operating on your own in crypto, it's just the odds are stacked against you as a lone wolf. And even I benefit from my community, speaking to the members, and I'm sure you benefit from your community as well, speaking to the members. It's a community. It's not a dictatorship. So we all learn from each other. And yeah, I really recommend people just join both groups, because you're better off hearing different opinions and different voices than just being in an echo chamber with all the same people. So do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, perfect example is that we do Patreon only altcoin request live streams over on the Patreon, and we ended up identifying, just through requests from the community, 8 new potential gems that we're doing deep dives into right now to make sure, just to confirm that they are gems. But but that's just the community coming together and saying, hey, you know what, I heard about this one, I heard about that one, and it's everyone working together, whether it's finding gems or people are opening trades and stuff like that. This is what I'm seeing. Our trading group's really great for that as well. So I agree 100%, especially if you're new to crypto. Like, one of the worst things you can do, you're almost guaranteeing your failure in the market if you're new to crypto and you don't have an education, you don't have experience, you don't have any time in the market, and you're saying, you know what, I don't want to pay a membership for being a part of a community, I'm just going to navigate this by myself. You're actually costing yourself more money, because the money you're going to lose trying to navigate this complicated crypto space, it's going to confuse you. Your head's going to be spinning. You're not going to know up from right, left from down, or left from right. See, even I didn't know, right?
That's why you need your community.
Yeah. Somebody help me out here. Yeah, that's exactly it, man. So definitely check it out, guys. There's Archie's channel for sure. Go make sure you shoot him a sub, join his community, join my community. And yeah, I guess we're just about out of time, brother. So we'll get you back on again. I appreciate you popping in. I know you were really, really busy today, so I appreciate you coming in. I know the community, they're always requesting, bring Archie back on, bring Archie back on. So absolutely, man.
Yeah, always happy to come on anytime. Just let me know. And I appreciate everyone watching. Make sure you subscribe to both channels. And everyone, do us a favor and hit up the likes on the stream. It really, really helps out. So cheers.
Absolutely. All right, guys. We'll see you later. God bless.